How's it going? This is the Wave 3 Mark II USB condenser microphone from Elgato, who sent me this for free to check out so that you can hear what it actually sounds like instead of just watching unboxing videos. This is the raw sound quality with no post-processing whatsoever, but unlike most of my videos, it's not going to be for the entire video. In fact, the raw sound that you're hearing right now is not even the default out-of-box sound. Instead, this is what the mic truly sounds like. Unlike literally every other microphone video I've ever made, the entire point of this mic is the processed sound, and you will accomplish this via the Elgato Wave Link app. As far as I know, it works on Windows and Mac. Linux users, figure it out. So this mic has a lot going for it. We've got all these effects and noise reduction running, so what are we paying for here? Here's the handling noise. If I have, let's see, some keyboard sounds. That's pretty good. I'm going to turn a fan on and let's see how it sounds. If I go and I turn off all of my effects, here's what we're looking at with the fan going, no effects running. Let's turn everything back on. Let's see how the Mark II handles this. Just to get the onboard controls out of the way first, there are 5 main controls on the body of the mic itself, most of which are handled via the central control wheel. On the top, you have a touch-controlled mute button, and then down at the bottom, you have a central gain control wheel, which controls 4 different settings. First of all is microphone gain, self-explanatory. And then if you click once, it adjusts the voice tune setting. So you can turn the voice tune all the way down to its weakest, or you can just turn it way up, which is kind of what I prefer. I just like this. I just like the way this sounds. I don't know. Then you can adjust your PC's output volume if you have headphones plugged into the mic, as well as the volume of your live monitoring. I'm just going to go down the list of all of the built-in effects that this mic comes with. On the input and monitoring tab, you can adjust your mic gain or have the app auto-adjust for you. And then you have gain lock, which will prevent other apps or windows from changing your mic gain. I would recommend leaving this on just at all times. And then there's Clipguard. So if you talk really loud like this, it's not going to clip and distort, and the mic is going to do a pretty good job of keeping your mic gain at a nice, pleasant level, which I really, really appreciate. This is not 32-bit float. This is just a really good reactive limiter. And then if you do have headphones plugged in to the mic, you can adjust your headphone volume, which of course will correspond with your Windows volume as well. And then there is your monitoring volume. That's going to be how loud you're going to hear yourself. You can completely turn off monitoring while still being able to hear your PC's audio output. Good stuff. Then there is the direct monitoring toggle. This is more important than you're going to think at first. It's okay to leave this off if all you're going to be running is like a couple of simple effects. But the second you turn something on like noise reduction, you are going to start getting monitor latency. What direct monitoring does is it bypasses all active software effects. That way you can have all of your effects running and still monitor yourself live with no latency. Whatever you are recording into or streaming into or whatever, they will hear your effects mix. They will not hear your direct monitor sound. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. It's really important. Don't overlook that setting. Okay, moving on to the effects tab. Honestly, I would kind of just recommend, depending on the timbre of your own voice, I would just turn everything on. I like the full processed sound that Elgato has given you here. Okay, so starting with the low cut filter, this is going to help with quite a lot of things. Typing noises, plosives, wind. If you have AC running in your house, this is going to help kind of cut down the low end part of the spectrum without taking too much off of your voice. So here's the low cut filter off, and here's the low cut filter on. You can barely tell a difference on my voice, so you're doing basically nothing but gaining a little bit of a cleaner sound sound. This is something that is going to be felt, not heard. And then there's the expander. It's not quite an actual expander. This is more of a noise gate. Here's the expander turned off, and here's the expander turned on. So it doesn't really change your voice. It just cuts your audio down to 0 when it does not detect that you are speaking. Next up is voice tune. I really like this setting. Voice tune off, voice tune on, voice tune off, voice tune on. Voice tune just kind of widens your sound a little bit. This is voice tune off, this is voice tune on. It just gives you kind of a bigger sound. It fills out the auditory space a little bit more. Next up is the compressor, which is, if you know what a compressor is, pretty self-explanatory. If you don't, it's just going to smooth your sound out a little bit. Here's the compressor off, and this is the compressor on. This is going to make your sound a lot louder, so I would recommend turning your mic gain down maybe 3 to 4 notches before turning this on. Next up is the equalizer. No one is going to be able to give you a correct answer on what the best EQ is going to be. It's going to entirely depend on you, the sound and the timbre of your own voice. Getting a good EQ on your voice is an exercise in patience. You're not going to find the correct one looking it up online. You're going to have to spend the time and effort fine-tuning, making small adjustments to specific frequency ranges to create one that works for you. And now, our first software effect. Software effects, this is where the monitoring latency is going to come in. So, Elgato gives you one software effect. It is called voice focus or AI acoustics. This is a denoiser and de-reverb mixed into one, and it is actually very, very effective. I'm going to turn off all of the hardware effects. This is what my voice sounds like without voice focus turned on, and this is what my voice sounds like with voice whoa, there's some latency. There's a huge delay. Let me go in to input and monitoring and turn, that's better. Direct monitoring. You're going to need direct monitoring anytime you have software effects running. So now this is my voice with voice focus turned on. Now turning everything else back on, this is now the full suite of effects, at least the effects that Elgato gives you themselves. These are all included in the Wavelink app to use with this mic. Of course, this is a heavily processed sound. So if that's not what you're going for, if you're looking for a mic specifically for its raw sound quality, the Wave 3 Mark II is not going to be it. This mic is entirely designed around the processing. So here's what's interesting about this mic is built in, it has an onboard digital signal processing unit, which entirely handles all of the hardware effects that are built in. Normally, if you're recording into, say, OBS, the low-cut filter, noise gate, EQ, compressor, limiter, all of that would be running in your computer's CPU and memory load. What the DSP does is it offloads those hardware effects, and they're all processed entirely in the microphone. When it comes to software effects, though, and we're going to get into this a little bit with the VST inserts, it doesn't entirely offload the work to the mic instead of your CPU and RAM. Now, most of these effects are only going to be active if you have the Wavelink app running in the background. So keep that in mind. If you restart your PC and you do not have Wavelink set as a startup app, you're going to have to start it up manually. Otherwise, you are only going to have essentially Clipguard and the voice tune turned on. And there's a lot more that you can do in the Wavelink app that I'm really not going to get too much into. You can create personal mix presets that you can toggle on and off. You can even add effects to your PC's output, for example. You can essentially do things like EQ your PC's audio output that you hear through your headphones in this app. It's really cool. There's a lot going for it, and for the most part, it's just going to require you messing around and having fun. So the VST inserts were so fun to play around with that this almost ended up being 2 videos. Normally, if you wanted to run your own third-party VST plugin like a noise reduction filter, normally you would have to record into, say, Audacity, Reaper, Cubase. Video editors like DaVinci Resolve can take VST inserts, but the problem with that is resource usage, and it's also not very practical to do live. The Wave 3 Mark II is able to essentially bypass that completely, and you can now run your third-party VST3 plugins live, which is awesome. The way it works is really simple. It's pretty much exactly what you would expect. Make sure that you are on the effects Effects tab, go down to Add Effect, and then all of your installed plugins should show up right here. Oh no, it crashed. Okay, so for example, if I wanted to sound like I was in the middle of a cathedral, I could do that. God, oh God, let's turn that off without having to record separately. Does that make sense? Now, if you do plan on running any software effects at all, I would recommend making sure that you have direct monitoring turned on. Basically, what this is going to do is it is going to disable software effects in the monitor mix, not the output mix, just the monitor mix that you yourself hear. Your recording will hear the software effects, you will not. And the reason for this is to bring the monitoring latency back down to 0 for you. So add an effect, go back, turn direct monitoring off just to hear what it sounds like. Now you do hear, when you have this enabled, you do hear all of the hardware effects. So you do get little to no monitoring latency when you have these hardware effects turned on. It's only the software effects. Depending on the plugin you use, obviously resource usage is going to be much, much higher. Wavelink does take up some CPU headroom, but not that much. It's mostly memory. Regardless of whether you have these default hardware and the software effects running or turned on, you will be sitting at around 800 plus megabytes of RAM in use, just in the background. Okay, please don't crash this time. I would like for this to not crash. Resource usage is going to be entirely dependent on the plugins that you are using. For example, I use the iZotope suite of plugins, and with just Neutron 5 running for a noise gate, a compressor, and an EQ, it goes from 800 megabytes of RAM usage to 1.2 gigs of RAM usage. If you want to add your own entire effects rack, you definitely can, but just be very mindful of the plugins you use and which plugins you decide to use live. I currently have this pretty much capped out at around 70% CPU usage with 1.2 gigs of memory used. So if you plan on using VST inserts with this, that digital signal processor is designed to offload the hardware effects, not your third-party VST plugins. The way it's worded is a little weird, and it can definitely lead you to believe that that's the case. It's not, but don't let that take away from how useful this is. Is it perfect? No, there's some crashing. There's obviously going to be optimization on Elgato's end over time. And also, of course, it's going to be plugin dependent as well. Cubase crashes with half these plugins anyway. So the VST inserts is a feature that kind of broadens the spectrum of who this mic is good for. So now it does teeter into kind of the prosumer category as well. So far, besides crashing, I haven't noticed any incompatibilities with any of my existing plugin library. If you try a plugin and Wavelink crashes, just open it back up and it works. Who is this microphone for? I would say that this mic is probably best for people who stream. Second up would be creators who do not have an audio interface. You don't want to get an audio interface. You just want one mic that is basically an all-in-one solution, top to bottom. You can just plug it in, set it and forget it, and it will just work. It sounds good. And again, I have, made it a huge point on this channel to focus on the raw sound, but I am also going to respect the design choice behind a microphone as well. So this mic is designed around the processing, not the rawness. So yeah, I mean, it's a good mic. Would I use it to narrate an audiobook? No, but it's pretty close. The sound you get after fine-tuning the effects to your liking, it can be pretty buttery smooth. I'm very relieved that this is a good launch. We've seen what happens when these big brands release something and it's not good. You've avoided my ire, Elgato. Well done. It's a bit pricey. It is. I wouldn't exactly call this a budget alternative mic. This is a brand name mic for a brand name price. But with the sound quality you get here, it's kind of hard to complain, which is a major compliment coming from me. It's good stuff. Definitely worth checking out. If you want to pick this up for yourself, of course, because rents do, I have an affiliate link in the description. Or you can check out my other videos if this is not the one you want. I also post my original music on this channel and a bunch of other random stuff too. And see ya! see. Okay, what is this? What's this sound like? Ooh, that sounds like shoo-doo. Doo-doo, doo-doo poopy. Poopy doo-doo. Poopy doo-doo. Poopy doo-doo. Doo-doo poopy. Doo-doo poopy. Poopy doo-doo. Poopy doo-doo. Doo-doo poopy poo-poo. Pee-pee poo-poo doo-doo.